Let it start. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Happy
Good,
Bringling.
good morning. Yeah.
Welcome to our Bringle Talks. And today we have a very eminent personality, Mr. Sanjay Puri, who is going to share his experiences about, entrepreneurship, about the industry, the technology, and any other different aspects. Where he has got a multiple experience and have really supported the various industries out there. Uh, Today, we are going to talk about more about how we are going to transform Indian economy to a more self-sustainable and financial independent economy. We are going to focus on towards our vision 2020-2030 to transform 1 billion lives, 1 million businesses, and 100 unicorns. With a focus of bringing excellence in three E's: education, employment, and entrepreneurship, and health, accessibility, and finance. So this is where we are going to be, bringing a lot of experts out there. And one of the expert is Mr. Sanjay Puri. Mr. Puri, I would request you to kind of give a little introduction about yourself, and so that our audience knows that who are you, what is the kind of contribution you had been giving, and then I'll take it forward from there.
Thank you, Anshav, for giving me an opportunity to be a part of this conversation with the readers and the listeners. So I really appreciate that. I'm a mechanical engineer from IIT and I passed in 1983. And then since I think that time till my retirement, till the age of 60 last year, I was very busy working for many MNCs and setting up projects all over the globe and especially in India, putting up projects in pharma, biopharma, food and beverage, and helping the nation to build the infrastructure in the past 30, 40 years. So that was the achievement I had done. I was awarded the CEO of the Year award in 2020 by Government of India
Wow.
through Indian Achievers Forum, and I retired in 2020, and I was before that I was managing director of US multinational, but looking after Asia operation and operating out of Singapore and from India. So there is the contribution to a nation per se, and taking a cue from you, contributing to nation is very important, and sustainability of our effort is also very important, and only economy will then build up. Nation has to do a lot of exports out of India to gain the forex and then do the development in the infrastructure in country. That's very important, and that is only possible when we support other nation and we supply our goods to other nations. So I think under the premiership of Mr. Rusi Modi, who I'm a fan of, the India has progressed quite a lot in the past 5 years, the way I have seen it, and it was not there earlier. And economy is going into the right direction, and a lot of infrastructure is being built up in places like Uttar Pradesh and in Maharashtra and other places. And we are inviting the foreign companies to put up the chemical plants. We are inviting the foreign companies to put up the semiconductor plants. So that's a good development which is taking place, and it will add the GDP of the nation, Anshav.
Thank you so much for such a lovely introduction, Mr. Puri. And I think this has been your experience with the infrastructure segment had been really incredible. And I totally understand that any country cannot be developed or cannot be set up without any infrastructure. And being into that field of infrastructure, I think a lot of people have a very limited understanding of infrastructure out there. So when it comes to infrastructure, what all things which comes into that, and how do you think that infrastructure industry, how is kind of help to eventually increase the GDP of our country?
Yeah, it's a good question, Anshav. And to answer it, infrastructure is again two types. The one is the manufacturing infrastructure, other is the
Mhm.
static infrastructure, which is about roads and bridges and other infra of the country. So my contribution to the country has been on the facilities and manufacturing units. which were put up as greenfield projects and then converted to the operating plants, and then they started producing goods. And I will give example of in the last 1 decade, I put up almost more than 30 projects in the pharma, biopharma in the country, and which are now making the generic medicine, they are making the vaccine, they are making the COVID vaccine as well. So a lot of contribution had gone into it, and in a sense that these plants are of very high national importance to India in terms of the consumption in India, number one, and answering your question how it will add value, and also exporting the goods out of India, like the generic medicine, which as far as my experience is concerned, I put almost more than 100 billion units per annum capacity facilities in India in the past 8, 9 years, and out of which almost more than 50% is being exported to Canada, to US, and European countries. So you can imagine how much forex is coming to India by virtue of these capexes, which were implemented by companies like Dr. Reddy's and other companies where I was the vice president. So this is a contribution which people like us and engineers are doing for the good cause for the nation, Anshav.
That's a lovely explanation, Mr. Puri. See, I also wanted to understand that there are a lot of small businesses on which are running, or even the startups, who may or may not have that infrastructure segment to that extent. How they are contributing towards the infrastructure segment from an economy perspective, and if they want to look at from export perspective, what is that they have to take care of? Like I remember one of our designer unicorn cohort portfolio startup, they are into agriculture, so they have their own farm and they have a large produce which they're not which they are, there's still a lot of things which are kind of unutilized, and they wanted to export but they didn't know how to export it out. There are few companies. One of the another startup which we had is they prepare that ready, that ready to eat foods typically, and they work with a lot of OEMs out there and get their product ready. But they were still struggling to figure out how to kind of export those things out. So, what is the message, or how you would like to give it to those small businesses, how they can improve their export portfolio?
Uh, See, the thing is, the small businesses have many challenges in the marketplace. The first challenge they have is the marketing their products either in India or out of India. And before
Right.
they do that, they have to get the certification for their products. So whatever facility they have, it has to be produced in a GMP compliant plant, and that has to be
Mhm.
approved by FSSAI certification by the Government of India body. And until and unless it is certified by that, or it is certified for Schedule M requirement, they will be not able to sell either in India or out of India, though they have the appetite to set up these small units and they have the money in place and all that. So, if you see the trend in the country, a lot of almost 80% of small units have actually started entering into the joint venture partnerships with big companies. So, big companies like if you, as you spoke about RTs are ready to eat foods and all that. They started having JVs with companies like Haldiram or Britannia and many other companies, or say Dabur, and they became their contract manufacturers. So CMO is a model where these small units become the contract manufacturers for the big units like these companies, and they produce it. They produce the goods for them, and their mark also come that it's produced by this unit. And however, they are branded under the big unit or the big company, and they're sold into either in overseas markets or India markets. So that's a one good thing which has happened in India, and lakhs of units have taken advantage of that. And I'm sure that small entrepreneurs will be getting into that type of model where they are having JV partnership with the big companies, like in also case of pharmaceutical or API, active pharma ingredients. China has been lowering down the API production of late, and API is a raw material for the medicines, for the generic medicine and for other medicines. So of late, API operation is now being ramped up in India, and there are many contract manufacturers of API, big, medium, and small. and small units are supplying to big units of API, and those big API units are supplying to big pharma companies like Pfizer or Sanofi and other big companies either in India or out of India. So a lot of small companies in API sector are building a very profitable business and under the agreement with the big company which is buying from them. So that's a one big successful model to implement it. Then to directly supply from India for a small unit to a big unit outside will be a difficult task going forward. So that's a one model. And also about 20% of entrepreneurs who had the appetite to put up a medium-sized plant were able to succeed to have a agreement with the big partners out of India, and they got approval by US FDA and other stuff because getting regulatory approval is a very major challenge for the small units. So, however, the approval of these small unit by the big unit is very simple in India, and big units are already approved by US FDA. So that way they can route their material, which is quality approved, to medium-sized unit in India, and medium-sized unit can supply to the bigger size unit out of India, and those units are approved by US FDA and Europe EMA and other regulatory authorities. So there is a regulation at every stage of the product, and in terms of quality and in terms of compliance. So that is to be complied with by all the units.
Okay, great. So I think that is something very interesting model which you are mentioning about. That what these guys can do is they can small businesses can collaborate or work with as a partner with a large organization who already have an export setup ready. So that way they can make more business out of it. But of course, that is one of the model which is probably prevailing for some period of time. Uh, how do you think that, let's say, if somebody is setting up their manufacturing facility or any kind of infrastructure facility, it requires a lot of money, and typically everything is thought about the land perspective. And when it comes to finance or when it comes to the investment, uh, how these large, of course, large companies have access to the large funds, but when it comes to the small businesses or even startups, how do you think that they can source out funds for their factories? What are the different, maybe some government, benefits, some other banking benefits, and especially when they're just starting up? How do you think that they can start maybe a medium-sized factory for themselves?
See, we should be thankful to our finance minister who was very successful in implementing MSME certification for these small companies. So, MSME is giving loans to small entrepreneurs or small units if they have a viable project, and there they can demonstrate that this project will be bringing in the return on the investment quicker, and they will be able to pay back the money back to government of India, whatever loan they can take, and then they will be in a position to expand it as well. So MSME loan they can take, and it's very readily available. Even banking sector also can provide requisite loans. So if required, if the business case is very strong, and thirdly, if they are tied up with a JV partner, like as I said earlier, big company who can they can become their contract manufacturer. Even those big companies can also partake into the fund investment in the capex plan of these small suppliers and small entrepreneurs. So you have to go in a multi-pronged strategy. I mean, the either the MSME loan on the one side, then JV partnership funding, and then banking loan. So it has to be a mix of all these three, and then probably I think it should be possible and to put up a plant which should be viable. And many entrepreneurs make a mistake of putting up a huge investment in the phase one, and then they are not able to utilize the capacity which they put, and they are hardly running as say 30-40% of the installed capacity, and that will incur a lot of fixed cost and other stuff, and the running cost of the plant and operation. So one has to be very prudent to do the unit installation in a phase fashion. It could be divided into phase one, phase two, phase three, and phase one could be a small operation where they could produce a smaller quantity with an ability to expand it to phase two in a bigger way, and then to phase three in a biggest way over a span of say 2 year or 3 year plan. and that way capex for the phase one will be less and will be manageable once they have demonstrated the technology, and they have commercialized the technology with success, and they have achieved the 100% of utilization of the plant, then they can go for phase two. So it has to be a very balanced approach for putting up the facility, and that way I think many entrepreneurs have been successful in the approach, and they have minted money out of it, and they have returned the profits to the loan advancing agencies, and they gained the credibility in market. So this has to be very phased fashion based, phased approach for putting the facility.
Got it. I think that's wonderful. Now, I have one more question for you, Mr. Puri. So let's say you have some free time right now, and basis on that, I'm not sure what you're doing currently, but if let's say some entrepreneurs would like to learn something from your experience, would you be comfortable enough to maybe have some kind of a sessions for them, especially talking about the various aspects like you mentioned, how to set up a factory, what are the things they can take care of in terms of capacity, how do they raise finance, how can they work on their project reports better and things like that, because you've got a really good experience in that. So would you be able to invest some time of yours in probably creating a module on this, maybe a self-paced program or some live sessions just to interact with the entrepreneurs? Would you be comfortable or open for the same?
Yeah, that is a good opportunity for me, and I will be very pleased to do that. And I can interact with the community, and then I'm supported. I'm a member of almost more than 400 IITians which we passed out in 83, 84, 1984,
Wow.
83. So we are, and all of them, half of them are also helping the startups all over India and in globally. So I think this is a good opportunity where I can interact with the entrepreneurs, and we can discuss how the financing can take place, how the project plans can be prepared, what type of plant they want to put up, what are the statute requirements are there, they have to cross that hurdle and all that, what regulation requirements are there, they have to cross it. So probably I think from end to end, from starting with designing and then getting into commissioning, installation and commissioning, and then finally commercialization. I think they will gain from my experience in the industry, and I will be very pleased to do that, Anshul.
Thank you so much, Mr. Puri, for you to come forward for this initiative. Let me just reach back to you, offline, and we will have a detailed discussion on this, how we could structure this into a program, and then we can probably look at and reach out to a few people and start developing some community. Because what I've seen is that when it comes to the infrastructure, large infrastructure setups, people struggle. People really feel that how do they kind of manage their project. Their team management is a big problem. They struggle with technology, they struggle with finance, they struggle with project reports, and of course the exports part of it. So I think overall that end to end support, if you could provide them on that, that would be really really helpful. So let's discuss that as well, maybe in a later call, and we can finalize a program for them. Thank you so much for the same. Now, leading this to further, I just wanted to know that what are the three ways by which infrastructure can lead to, improve the GDP of our country and making this more as a financially independent economy or a self-sustainable economy, which our Modi ji has been talking about as Atmanirbhar Bharat. So, how do you think that infrastructure is going to play a major role? Because he also talks a lot about infrastructure and works towards that segment.
Yeah, so I think what is important is the government has to look at the sectors which are growing and which will be adding a lot of value to the GDP. So selection focus on that particular sector is very important, and from the government perspective and also the public perspective. So and that will give opportunity for the public participation in the funding as well for the projects along with the government. So you have a lot of PPP projects in country where funding is available from public as well as through IPO and from government as well. So coming to the facility, which is very specialized facility, where government is also funding in very, very few cases, but majorly funding is either by owners or by the banking institutions and all that. So GDP can grow only where the sector, specific sector which are growing very heavily can be leveraged
Mhm.
and they can be focused on. We don't have to get into those sectors which are not adding a lot of value into the GDP. So, selection of a particular sector is very important. And then government policies have to be in favor of growing that sector in the time to come, or the way it is going on is equally important. Otherwise, the growth will not take place as planned, and funding will be not available in the marketplace from the financial institutions. So that's very important. And thirdly, is that the facility which have to be put up or infra which have to be built up should be in a place where the skilled people are available, because you have seen that a lot of facility which are built up are not able to run its course, or the technology is not commercialized to its expectation, because the skilled people are not available and the continuity is lost. Half of the plants put up in India are not even operating at 30% of its capacity of certain, either the lack of raw material or lack of imported raw material, or quality issues with the raw material, or unavailability of skilled people. So what is important is to have the skilled people or the technically skilled people to be available for that plant or for that place is equally important, because they are the guys who will run the operation, and they are the guys who will who will produce the manufactured goods, and that is adding value in terms of sales, and that is ultimately adding to GDP of the nation. So these are the three things which I think is very important, and the regulatory compliance should be in favor of that sector from government. Otherwise, it will become very difficult to put up the facility which will have hurdle on the government compliance. So that is most important to start with.
Got it. So I think you brought another very interesting point about the skills that we and I think industry is really struggling with the right skill set at this point in time. There are a lot of discussions when we work with hundreds of colleges. Currently, we are working with around 500, 700 colleges. To work on improving the employability index of these students. And what I've realized is that only there are 56% of the engineers who are jobless today, uh, and even though who are kind of into the organization or working there, they are also lack skills, lot of skills with respect to life skills and soft skills, of course, but the domain expertise is also kind of really misaligned to some extent. uh, how do you think that how we could bring this more collaboration between industry and academic institutions, and how we could improve the skills, I would say the skills index or employability index of these youth who are basically coming out in the industry, but they have practically no jobs today, and on the other hand these industries are struggling to get the right skill sets.
Rightly said that there is a challenge for skill development in the country, and then skill mapping is equally important, because, as you said rightly, the subject matter expertise SME is not available in the country. SME percentage in India is very less for a particular technology, and they are highly in demand. Actually, if you see the Western countries, you will find everyone is an SME in his own line, and they able to contribute quite a lot to the nation building. So in India, I think there is a need for forming the groups which can take leadership in terms of uh, skill development for people who are coming out of the colleges, engineering colleges, selection of right people, then mapping their skill to a particular technology where they can excel, because you cannot force a guy to do something which he doesn't like, or which he will not like to pursue as a career. So, skill development and skill mapping both are equally important, and a lot of a few of I think good efforts can be have with engineering institutes like IITs and all that, collaboratively along with the industry, and then they can, I think, go to engineering colleges, and then they can say review the people available, the students available there who are passing out for the final year, and they can be employed in good companies, and a lot of requirement help is required from the industry. Industry has to come forward. I'll give example of Tata Group. I worked in Tata for 8 years, and that model, if it is implemented in other industry, will be really very good. So Tata, what they do is, in various companies, they go to the campuses, and then I used to go to campuses when I was in Tata's, and I used to interview people, engineers who were in the final year. So they will take their entire intake of a company, various companies. They have 100 companies, Tata Group companies, and many companies will take at least 10% the trainees, engineers from the fresh colleges, and they will be trained within the Tata Group for over years, and then they into a particular technology. So, and then they will become the experts over the span of time. But then they invest money into it. So they take freshers, 10% of freshers from colleges, which no other company does, and then they take in bulk and then they train them. So that model, I think, if many companies can start it, some companies do it. Say Reliance do it, other the Birla say do it, but not every company do it. So they everybody want experienced people, but then I think freshers have to come somewhere, and they can excel as good as experienced guys after 1 year of training. So which I think people have to realize, and then I think it will be a good association of these fresh people or fresh engineers with good companies going forward.
Great. See, what we have seen is that large companies can afford that investment, like Tata Group, Reliance, L&Ts. All of these companies are definitely doing such kind of investment. But if you see our GDP contribution, there are 50 to 60% of these are small businesses who are basically contributing to the GDP of the country. And if you see in terms of number, there would be probably 95% of the businesses. So, how do you think that they could invest in such kind of efforts out there? Because they struggle, they literally struggle because they don't have money to pay to the experienced people. They can't afford to those guys who can really add value to their organization. And the students which they want to hire or they could hire because of the low salaries, they they don't have the skill set available for them. So what do you think, what is the message you think that you would like to give it to these small businesses, that where they should invest? So that is the one question at one side to them. The another part which you have mentioned is that even the educational institutions like reputed organizations like IITs, their students also need some kind of a skills mapping and skills development. So how what is the message you would like to give it to the colleges, that what they should be focusing upon for their students so that they get the job, we call it as right people with the right skills at the right place, kind of thing. So I think there are two set of messages which I would want you to kind of talk about.
See, in terms of the small scale industries or small entrepreneurs, I think they have to become together. And I don't see any formidable group in India of the small entrepreneurs who are able to take lead in this aspect. So I think there is a need for them to become one group, and where they are represented by maybe 100,000 small scale entrepreneurs, and then they should connect with the educational bodies of engineering through government of India, and they should have an agreement with them that whatever the engineers are passing out from the engineering colleges, they have to work in the final year more in the industry. I mean, they should be given more opportunity to work in the industry than to spend time on theory, because our education is more towards theory and less on the practical thing. So that's a gap, and that has to be filled in. And these people can work in the small scale industry as well. It is not that they have to work only with the big companies. So that type of mindset has to change of these engineers, and they I'm sure they will do that. And they should spend more time, 6 months in a shop floor environment, and gain some practical knowledge. So when they pass out engineering finally, so they become as good as 2 year experience guy or 1 year experience guy. So their employability will go up drastically. So I feel that a pure theoretical engineer will be not useful in the first year. So he will be only training. and he will be missing out his learning part when he started. So if he has been experienced in the workshop or in the industry earlier during his engineering college period, so then he is well prepared to work in the industry when he passes out the engineering. So that's one. And secondly, I think government have to take ownership of all this, because until they take ownership, nothing will happen. So they have to formulate a body, and then that body can interact with the small scale entrepreneurs on the one side, and engineering colleges on the one side, and industry on the other side. So all have to come together to help it out. Otherwise, it will be a challenge for us to go through the model which you're talking about in this conversation of mine.
Okay, and see, government I think have made this this body like NSGC, National Skill Development Corporation, which is kind of working practically in the similar area. Uh, have you seen that being really operational or working out, or maybe giving effective results to the industry, to the small businesses?
It is not visible, Anshav. I think they are very focused on certain sectors. So private
Hmm.
sectors are not fully focused onto it. So I think these bodies have to really branch out to have visibility with every sector per se, and work very closely with the industry. So that is missing out actually.
Okay, so what you're saying is that they're basically focusing upon those set of particular set of vocational courses which are not related to these industries directly, or maybe not aligned with the engineering set of people. Am I correct?
Yeah, maybe, maybe or may not be. I don't know. But then I didn't see the. I've been in the industry for 40 years, and I have not seen any
Mhm.
visibility of which is really a visibility. So that visibility is missing out actually.
Got it. So I think that sounds really, really great. I just want to, now I think I've got a fair good idea about your thoughts and how we could work from an infrastructure point of view. Uh, I'll go to on a little quick messages. It's kind of a rapid fire round, which I'll be asking more at a personal level now. So, Mr. Puri, let's say if you get a chance to meet three people, dead or alive, who would be those three set of people and why?
See, certainly I would like to meet alive people, and alive people who are kicking their minds. So that's very important, because in India we need entrepreneurs who are kicking their minds and brains day in and day out, 24 by 7 environment. And that's the only thing which works in our lifespan, because we have a limited lifespan. You see, a lot of people are dying in Corona time. So whatever time we have to be fast, we have to be quick, we have to be action oriented. So I will love to interact with the action oriented people in my life.
Okay, so I mean, any people whom you would want to kind of connect with, maybe at a senior position level or somebody. Let's say we get a chance. So who are those three visionary people maybe you have in your mind whom you would like to meet, and what would you like to discuss it with them?
Yeah, I mean, I think in my career, I worked in Unilever. I mean, I had the opportunity to meet hundreds of people across, starting with Ratan Tata
Mhm.
when I was in Tata Group, and then
Wow.
Ramadurai. I mean, I was fully impressed by their personalities and the working style. So I think
Mhm.
I was very impressed with the Tata Group people actually. I worked in Tata Group, I worked in Unilever, I worked in Dr. Reddy's. So I was very impressed by their working and their working style. So I will love to be. I will love to see Ratan Tata again, who is the visionary of the country. So I will love to meet Mr. Mukesh Ambani somewhere in a conference. So that's one vision I have in my life.
Wow. Thank you so much, Mr. Puri. I think that is something really, really great. And what do you do in your free time? What are your, what is that one personal thing which not many people know about you? What is that you would like to share it with our audience?
Uh, uh, I love to stay in touch with the subject matter experts in India, so and have a very
Mhm.
strong group of more than 1,000 SMEs in
Wow.
FMCG, pharma, biopharma sector, and many of them
Mhm.
are based in India. A few of them based out of US and other countries, and many of them have been involved in the manufacture of mRNA vaccine in US, and a few of them were R&D head in Pfizer in US. So we learn a lot from them, and I think I love to interact with them and understand the technology of mRNA vaccine and all that. So networking is very good. So I'm very well networked in India and out of India. So I love networking with top people and SMEs across the world actually.
Great, great. And just one question, one more question rather on this. Are you at this stage looking to invest in startups or small businesses, or or there is no agenda like that right
See, if it is an interesting project and I'm supported by almost more than, as I said, 350 IITians who passed engineering in 1983, and they half of them were managing directors of many companies, and some of them are retiring or in this last year. So they
now?
have ample money in hand. We have a lot of investments funds available within the group. So certainly, if any project or any plan is good for us, where we can invest money as per our need, I think we will be willing to do that.
Okay, great. And so I think I'll connect with you separately on that in terms of what could be your area of interest in more detail. But do you think that you would like to work on the employability segment of the engineers and bridging that gap for the industries, the small industries, and giving them the right candidate? Because I like your model, and this is exactly what we are also trying to do with these colleges. So we are currently working with few engineering colleges like NITs and
Mhm.
GNTU and Tumkur universities, and then some of the local Maharashtrian and Gujarat university like Parul universities and all. So what we are trying to do is that we are trying to work with them, with the management, with the children, with the students, in terms of improving their employability index. First of all, they're doing the skills mapping, which is very important. Working with the career counselors to guide them, counsel them that where they should be going forward for, and then improving their soft skills, life skills, and the domain expertise. They could be going in for let's say if they are going it for engineering, then they should be also having some industry experience so that they can become more of a industry ready professionals. And we are in fact trying to reach out to the colleges and trying to understand right now whether we should impart such kind of a skill development trainings right from the day one they enter into the college, because by the time they reach to their third or fourth year of the college, they probably are already clueless, and they're so much in that hurry of getting a job that they actually miss out on the other aspects of it. So they're only bothered about getting the jobs. So if we kind of work on this kind of model, wherein we work on improving the employability index of not only engineers but the other students as well. But engineers could become a very important segment because they are the ones who are building up the entire economy or the industries, supporting industries on that. And 56% of the engineers are jobless today. And the ones who are there, they're also not pretty happy in whatever they're doing. So one of the challenge which we have found out with them is that they don't have a paying capacity because they're already paying for their engineering degrees. And when it comes to the training, the cost of training, mentoring, and all of that is there is nobody to take care of that. College doesn't want to take it. The students doesn't have the money, and that's where when the industry comes in, that's where we kind of lack in over there. So if we kind of work on that kind of industry academia collaboration, do you think that would be an area where you would like to work on that? And maybe we can explore the model around that, how we will work. But is that an interesting area to work?
Yeah, certainly. I think it will be pleasure supporting those people and mentoring those people, engineers, young engineers from year one and going into year two, year three, and final year, fourth year. So I think I will love to be engaged on that. So no problem on that. And but before I do that, I have to understand the model which you want to work with. I mean, what is a model? And what type of the plan you have for them. I need to interact with you offline. What type of expectation you have from that before I get into it in say in depth. So I'm open to that. If it contributes to their career and all that, I'm okay on that.
Great. So I'm not. I'm also, keeping it open at this point in time. We'll definitely have an offline conversation on this as well. Was just trying to understand because it's a really pain. So I myself is an engineer, and I've done my engineering from Delhi College of Engineering, which is currently the top five engineering colleges of India. So but I'm not into engineering field, and of course, somewhere I feel that all my engineer friends who are there, they're also kind of still there. Some of them really like engineering, some of them are kind of stuck. They probably wanted to move ahead in or do something different. But the people who are already there, they also are finding out some challenges at their career span point of view. Of course, they've grown a lot and reached out to a senior positions by now. But still, what I feel is that the new engineers who are coming in, when I see them coming in, they're literally clueless what to do, and they don't have proper jobs. They have only big companies into their mind, while the small businesses struggle, and they could have a better career out there. Maybe they can become a better professional, better project oriented person, and do a large set of tasks rather than doing a small task in the large organization. So that kind of really hurts me a lot as well. So that's where we started this initiative almost couple of months back, and we got experts, around 300 plus experts who are kind of working on this. We started working with few universities, but we are finding it bit of a challenge at this point in time because there is nobody who could kind of invest in them, okay, and make it work. When we go to the industries say that, okay, I need a trained professional, you just give it to us and then we'll work it out. So there is a big problem between industry and academia, collaboration and even understanding. And sometimes they say that we are doing our job the best, we don't need to train them on employability skills. So I think that also is one of the area which I will want to discuss with you offline, and we'll take it up. I mean, of course, I'll share more details on that, and then we can work out a model around this, how it could
Okay,
work.
sounds good. Yeah,
Okay. Thank you so much,
thank
Mr.
you.
Puri. I think this is lovely chatting up with you. Any message, one-liner message, last message you would like to give it to our audience, be it to the government or be it to the, you know, uh, to the school, the college student or the engineers, what you say, or the SMEs.
See, my my message is that whosoever engineers are working in engineering colleges, studying in engineering colleges, and whatever they are doing, they have to have a full focus on what they will do after they pass out. So many of them will be going into engineering type of jobs, or some of them will be going into business administration type of jobs. So you guys have to be very, very clear in your objectives, what you will do ultimately in your life or ultimately in your career. Until and unless you are passionate about your expertise or whatever you are gaining out, you will be not able to succeed in the life, and you will be lost somewhere, after you pass out. So. Uh, a direction from a mentor is very important for these engineers who can assess their capability and who can assess what skills they have, and then finally advise them where they can work. So I think mentorship is very important for these people, which is not coming out from the engineering college, say per se, but from industry. I think industry can support these people, and they can be absorbed in the industry at the right point or at the right type of requirements, and then they can learn it. So I think the selection of their career profile is very important, and for them to succeed in the life.
Thank you so much, Mr. Puri. It was lovely, conversation. And I think we have two agendas for us to have a discussion. That is something really, really
Yeah,
remarkable. Uh, because one is on the employability index part of it, and another on the industry support, whatever the program which we could start for the industry, small businesses. So I think really great output, and would really we will connect with you offline on that. Till
thank you.
then, to our audience, thank you so much for watching this video till the end, and keep bringing, keep growing.
Thank you. Bye bye.